5 years experience, 10 years experience for entry level junior type roles. And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't even been out of school that long, so how can I possibly have 10 years
All right.
experience?
You don't have to rub that in. Okay. Thank you. You're young. We get it. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Christine,
How's it going?
pretty good. How are you?
Good. Well, welcome
Good.
everybody to Real Talk, where Gen Z meets Gen X. We're bridging the gap one conversation at a time. And today, Kevin, your favorite conversation, Gen Z and getting a job and Gen Z in the workforce.
I don't know if it's my favorite conversation, but it's definitely a hot topic and certainly relevant. So,
Yeah, so why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background, your early career, kind of give a little history on your job search and jobs?
yeah, so I went to school and then I worked for a small in-house agency, recruiting agency, working on some marketing projects, and then kind of morphed into more operation and business development projects where I met Christine. And she had said to me one day, what I consider a PM route. And I didn't say no, but I didn't say yes at the
Didn't
same
say
time.
yes either.
I was like, no, I have to do that. I had some great learning experiences at different
Mhm.
marketing jobs, but I called Christine and I said, Christine, you're right. I think the PM route might be a better option.
Because it's just that I think that each generation has so much that we can learn from each other. But, reading the statistics and seeing that how many Gen Zs are out of work, and when they're out of work for, a fairly long period of time, like 6+ months. And so kind of we wanted just to kind of explore that a little bit and like, what does that do to you? Your motivation to get a job, your motivation to try something new, like how does that really affect you? But also, what are some things you can potentially do? One of the critiques I've been reading is about that things that people told you to do, and like previous generations, like a Gen X, they say go do this, this, and this, you're doing them, and it's really not coming to fruition that you're getting a job. So do you think that some of that stuff is out, what we're the advice we're giving you is like outdated? I mean, do you feel like in-person networking is better than applying online or networking through LinkedIn or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely think in today's market, in today's world, it's definitely having a one-on-one connection with somebody in the role or at a target company. And for me at this point, and I think for a lot of people, it's been easier to connect one-on-one, and kind of spark a conversation and kind of go that way versus just mass applying on any of the job boards and getting no feedback. Right? It goes into the ATS and it's kind of there and becomes a dark hole. I feel
Yeah, but
unless you have somebody.
let me stop you for a second. So now I'm a recruiter, is my career 2.0. Part of the reason it's going into a black hole, though, don't you think, is that not you, but your group or people are using automated apply tools. So if we as recruiters are being inundated by thousands of resumes, so if we post a job, sometimes we're getting thousands of applicants in the first 30 minutes, and they're not even remotely qualified, and they're answering the questions like yes, like do you live in such and such area, and they're saying yes, so they're not automatically being rejected. And so then we have thousands of resumes that we're kind of doing. So I mean that's it's kind of both sides too.
It's definitely both sides. It's definitely both sides because I mean, how easy is it to just have a kind of a carbon copy resume, not really cater it to the job and to the role, and just you can send out 100 jobs in an hour or a day, with no real effort put into it. So
Yeah.
I, it's a great automation and a great advance in technology in many ways, but at the same time, it's there's no human touch, there's no human connection. It's just going through the motions just to do it. And at the end of the day, from a job seeker standpoint, right? If it's not moving the needle, it's not working.
Right.
Because you can apply to 100 jobs, mass apply to 100 jobs, but if nothing happens, nothing happens. Um,
Right.
so
And so that's like, okay. So I'm going to, date myself a little bit here. But so when we would have to find jobs, and then we would actually, if we wanted to change or customize it for a specific job, we would have to type it in or on the word processor, reprint it, and you're mailing it. And, so it actually took some time. So it made a difference if you actually customized your resume and a cover letter at the time for that company. If you kind of the thinking was back then, if you gave some details about the company and you showed that you were interested in why you'd be a fit. But aren't there tools now that can pretty much automatically do that?
Yeah, there's some tools out there that definitely automate that process. And before I get any further, Christine and I started this brand a couple weeks ago, and this is our second video. So before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay tuned to more conversations and more content.
So are you using any of the tools? So if everybody's kind of customizing it, then doesn't that kind of dilute the value of making these customized letters and resumes?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I definitely feel, and the feedback I've gotten so far is you have to customize to some degree. So you have something. The use of AI obviously has been great. You can copy a job posting URL into ChatGPT, upload your resume, find some missing keywords or bullet points that maybe you can, when appropriate, add or not add. At the same time, there's things like Teal,
Right.
which are a great way to kind of track jobs, and you can build templates and automations to contact HR or the hiring manager, and it kind of gives you a pretty innovative automated
So
dashboard.
yeah, so that's really interesting. So when you're tracking then your job search and everything, you're not tracking it then like through a spreadsheet. You're tracking it through other programs. All
Yeah,
right, all right. Kevin's going to have to give us a tutorial in another video on TL because I would just have used a spreadsheet. So what do I know, right?
I mean, a good spreadsheet is a good spreadsheet. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see the tools. So okay, so you have all these tools, but you're still saying that the in per you've done a lot more in-person networking then. Is that
Quite a bit, quite a bit. The past probably month or so, I've made a point to go to at least 2 to 3, either in person and or virtual networking events, um, different, webinars, sometimes in-house lecture type things, and connecting with not always hiring managers or HR, but someone in a role or in a similar
Mhm.
domain, who may or may not be at a target company, but they know somebody who knows somebody, and
Mhm.
just even connecting and working on your pitch and how you present yourself and kind of telling your story to other people and making meaningful connections versus just Billy Joe is at company X and I'm going to send you a I may or may not send you a LinkedIn note, and I may or may
Mhm.
not get a response, and I may or may not hear connection. So I think it definitely adds more value. As a rule, I think in this market, it's in many ways essential. And I know for myself, it's challenging at first, but easier to connect in person than just you know
Right.
through a message online that you may never actually see the person.
And a lot of your going to school and jobs have been remote. So how do you get over then? Now you have to be in person and you're networking and it's Gen Z, a lot of, like I said, a lot of the pandemic, a lot of the stuff has been virtual. So you mentioned like it was a little bit stressful in the beginning. Like how did you get over that? Or do you have like, what do you do to kind of prepare yourself when you go to these meetings?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge at first. For myself, I can be a little bit of a shy person in person at first. So I went over prepared.
Mhm.
I made sure I really knew who was. I did the best I could to find out who was coming in speaking if that was relevant. If there was a list of attendees, I would maybe send them an email or a LinkedIn note and say, "Hey, I
Okay.
see you're in this group. Are you going to this event on X date?" or things like that, and try and find like a buddy, um, to meet at the event. So that way, it wasn't just milling around by yourself, but you could find someone and say, "Hey, hey Joe, nice, we talked online. You want to sit together?" kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Um, and really kind of know kind of also what they're looking for and what they're doing, and almost you may not have a solution per se, but bullet points on their role or their job search to kind of spark a conversation and almost ask them questions about their search and their experience and what they're looking for and what they're seeing versus just kind of that awkward, I don't know you, I'm not prepared, kind of situation. So it was definitely, you know, avoiding that anxiety was being prepared and probably over prepared in many ways. I also think I found anyway, and I think people roughly should go who have the same experience. Um, I think having your story really ready. and having a succinct story for yourself. Where was I, where am I, and where am I going, right? And then kind of
Mm.
some action items or bullet points as to what you've done so far in your career to speak on, and kind of tie that into that conversation, and really integrate a full conversation versus that awkward, I don't know you, you don't know me, kind of thing. So those are some of the
And
things that I've done so far. I've only gone through a couple, but so far it's worked out pretty well.
okay, so maybe we'll put in the description, we'll put a link to a resource of just some kind of icebreakers and some things that Kevin does to get prepared to go to these networking events because it can be really very stressful because like you said, you don't know people. Now, are there mostly when you're going to these, are there mostly people your age or is it more my age?
Nope. No, I'm when I go, I'm definitely 9 times out of 10 one of the younger people there,
Really?
really, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of times the people are, older in life and or definitely more senior C-suite level people or
Hmm.
alike, as a rule. So it's definitely sometimes a little comical, um, just based on that.
And
Um,
and so why? I mean, so there's a lot of Gen Zs that are out of work. What they're doing of mass supplying is not working. So why do you think that people aren't really going to these meetings then? Is it again that they're just used to being everything more remote and not as personal?
yeah, so in talking to some colleagues um, and friends, right? It's easy to sit at home or from your phone and just mass apply all day long and
Mm.
just walk out a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever, and just mass apply and not really care if your resume aligns or your experience aligns or, whatever. Um, and the feedback I've gotten so far is, well, you just sit at home and just do it. You should just do it at home and well, yeah, something will bite, but how long can you not work for, right? And
Yeah.
and if that's maybe, I don't want to say an outdated tactic, but maybe an outdated or less effective tactic. Again, how long can you wait, right?
Anyway.
And then if you have nothing kind of on the interim to kind of keep the engine running to some degree, if it's volunteer work, if it's a contract, if it's a side project, whatever the case may be, well, I sat home and applied to jobs for 6 months. Great, but how are you learning? How are you improving yourself and making yourself a better professional and more educated, well-rounded person and professional, right? Um,
But and so, but do you feel then that okay, so do you feel though that you're missing some type of skill because they or you're missing some type of degree? Because the problem right now that I'm seeing is that people want even what they're calling early career entry level, but they're expecting that you're going to have experience, and yet they're not willing to train you. So it's kind of like, well, how do you get that experience if nobody's willing to train you? And so I don't know. So, like for you, I know that you're heading down the project management path and certifications and stuff. So you kind of have a plan. But the reality is that if people get certifications, that's no guarantee necessarily that you're going to get a job because people still want in this market experience. So have you
experience,
found that to be the case or
definitely, definitely. And I've also found, that's absolutely the case. 5 years experience, 10 years experience for entry level junior type roles. And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't even been out of school that long, so how can I possibly have 10 years
all right,
experience?
you don't have to rub that in. Okay, thank you. You're young. We get it.
but but to Christine's point, absolutely. I've also found that where previous, junior type level roles or more entry level type level roles, they want industry and a vertical experience, where
Oh, really?
maybe a junior marketing role or a junior PM role or a junior whatever role, maybe you can
Huh.
work in different verticals because the skills are transferable at that point, and you may not have to be an expert or a subject matter expert in domain X, Y, and Z. I've seen a lot of 5 years experience in fintech or 5 years experience in healthcare or whatever is that you're looking at, again, for junior type level roles. And I'm like, well, how does that work, right?
How does
Because
that work?
even if you if
Exactly.
you if you've worked 5 years, you know you depending on your route out of college, you may or may not end up in the lane that you're going to spend 10 years in, or whatever the case may be. So it's how do you get that, and how do you kind of navigate those waters um, with your current experience, and bring those skills and that experience to the table as it applies or impacts their job.
And their job. And then what about, do you see people, your friends or colleagues? I mean, are they taking jobs that are not in their field? So let's say you're project management slash marketing. Are you considering working at, a restaurant or something? Does that kind of take away that you're kind of, I mean, like, do you just kind of sit and wait till the job comes, or are people taking kind of more like side jobs or just to kind of get through? And are they having trouble getting those? Because I would think that an employer, if they see you're doing something out, might not hire you because they know you're not going to be long term because you want to do something else.
Yeah, no, definitely. About a month ago, kind of just for practice and just to kind of see what happened, basically, I had applied to a local coffee place. And I kind of watered down my resume a little bit and so on and so forth. And the person and the feedback was you're overqualified.
You're
And I
overqualified.
said overqualified. And I've never worked in a food and beverage industry. I've never had that type of role before. Um,
Yeah.
how are you overqualified for something that you haven't even touched upon?
Well, I
And
I think it's more just that they don't want to train you and then kind of figure it because they know that you're really looking for something else and it's a stopgap. And so I think that if they feel that they're investing the time and money to train you, and if you get a job, let's face it, you're going to say,
adios, right?
Oh, wait, we have to stop here for a second because everyone has to know that Kevin has an iced coffee obsession and has one with him at all times, 365 days a year,
Every day, sometimes,
every
sometimes,
day.
sometimes several a day.
See, so I think you only want to work at a coffee place, so you can try to get like employee discounts. You're right there.
Exactly. Use the
No, I
benefits to my
mean, that's
advantage.
yeah, but that's really kind of, this really makes it difficult because then you're almost unemployable because you're waiting for maybe not your dream job, but at least a job in your industry. But yet now you have a problem that you need income. And so then you try to go to something else and they're like, you're overqualified or whatever the reason is. And, and you can't get a job there. So you're kind of like, you're kind of like in this holding pattern till, the job market loosens up a bit or whatever.
You're in this holding pattern. So let me flip the question and ask you your take on this. From a recruiting and hiring manager standpoint, you have a junior person, they have a couple of years of experience, they get laid off, they leave their job for whatever reason, um, and they need to do something, right? And they take a job at a restaurant or a coffee shop for a year, and they're applying to your job as role X. How do you view that from your standpoint and say, okay, the person had to pay rent or their bills or whatever, they have to do something so they're not dying, but it's not relevant work experience per se.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard, and I think it's the question is so multifaceted because I think that everybody understands on a human, scale that you need to work and you need to do everything, but the pool of candidates at this point is so large, and so many people have been laid off, and it's taking them so long to find jobs that you're competing with somebody who maybe has 3 or 4 years of experience and they just got laid off. Maybe you were laid off, a person's been laid off last year, and so they need to work at the coffee shop, but this person just got laid off. Well, who's going to get that job? Who's going to get that interview? It's the person who was just laid off who has the 3 years of experience. And so I
Right.
think that if the market's kind of tight and there's really no candidates, I don't think it matters as much. But now you have so many people competing for the same job. And you have it from another way too, where overqualified, they'll say people are overqualified then for jobs that maybe you're going to, but you have to remember that people going for the early career jobs are people who are even late career are trying to apply because they need a job. So they're willing to take a huge pay cut and they're getting the same, they're going to get, you're overqualified. You're not going to stay in this job. I don't want to hire you right now because once you get something better, you're going to be gone. So it makes it really complicated. So, and then the other issue is that a lot of the scanning on the recruiting side and the HR side is done automatically. So they're looking for some keywords or something. So sometimes it might even, you even can say like, let's say that I want this person in the last year to have worked in this industry. Well, if you weren't in that industry, you're not going to, your resume is never going to be seen by anybody. I mean, so like, I don't think it makes as much difference if someone is holistically looking at the person and the candidate and saying, okay, they worked for, had a really good history. Now they're doing this and just to kind of make ends meet. But, you know, and as time goes by and the longer you're unemployed, let's face it, the less desirable you become,
You become. So
right?
it's a double-edged sword because
It's a double-edged sword.
because people have to survive and make it through their day to day.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, it's a tough market.
It's a really tough market. And people just, I just want to just follow up with this one question, but are you willing to, like, when you go in for job interviews, and are you like open to a much lower salary just to kind of get in the door? Like, is your priority, and I know everybody's different, but is your priority, like, if you're willing, if someone's willing to kind of give you a job essentially and give you a chance, are you like flexible on the salary? Because I know some people aren't. Are you having to be more flexible?
Yeah, I mean, I think the salary needs to, at a minimum, right, support you to self-sustain yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of at a bare minimum. So am I flexible on the salary? I think so, as long as I can be self-sustaining and you know provide basic needs for myself, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the answer is, yes, for the if there was a job and someone said, here's an offer letter,
Okay.
yes.
And are you finding a lot more jobs like right now to apply to, or do you feel like the number of jobs available are is decreasing right now?
Both.
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 Okay. So yes, that was
Both.
an either or, but okay.
I see. I see. Um, I love numbers and I love tracking things. So I may or may not have like a spreadsheet of sorts as to how
Oh,
many
it's
new jobs.
spreadsheet, old tech. Oh, look at you go.
I mean, it's very much in line with my teal, but the same general idea. Um, I, I I do monitor maybe bi-weekly how many new jobs are posted within an hour of where I am. So I
Okay.
do track, how many new jobs come into, uh, you know, under my search criteria, right? Um,
Right. Okay.
um, but definitely I always get alerts and things like that. Oh, X new job posted, or it was posted 12 hours ago or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So
What are
it's
you
a
seeing? What are you seeing on your end?
less jobs and definitely more specific of what they want,
Hmm.
and it has to be some, the candidate has to really check all the boxes and then some,
And then some.
you
And are you
know,
seeing that? Are you
and
seeing that?
I'm seeing salaries lower than
I,
like a year ago.
I've definitely noticed salaries lower too. Sometimes you even see something posted one week and the
Yeah.
same role at a company, or a duplicate role in a different team, for much less money,
Yeah. It's
depending
a,
on the role and the industry and things like that. But there's been plenty of times where I've seen, oh, here's this again, and then you look at it and it's X dollars less. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah, that's not good. You need your iced coffee, Kevin.
I need my Someone has to buy the iced coffees.
Someone needs to buy Kevin an iced coffee.
Exactly. Several a day, several a day.
Crazy.
Uh,
All right. Well, good conversation, Kevin. And, everybody join us. We're going to kind of tackle these. And I'm really interested in seeing that teal. That's going to be a good session, Kevin.
yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing my use case for that, and going from there. From my standpoint, the in-person and or virtual networking and connection making is key in today's market, not only in terms of a job search, but also growing your network in valuable ways, tangible ways, versus just
Mhm.
sending a note that may or may not be received and things like that. And it also gets you out, it gets you talking to people, it gets you doing all these things that
Yeah.
you can't do from home. So I definitely I suggest, if you can and you're able and willing to do that, to leverage that.
Sounds like a plan. All right.
All right.
Everybody, join us on the next session. Hear more about Kevin's job search.
Talk
Bye,
soon.
Kevin.
Bye.